Dear people, my name is Bastien Willemo. I work for VDZW, and it's my honor in the name of a whole collective of organizations that organized this welcome of the Peace Boat to introduce to you the Peace Boat delegation. We have gathered here today to welcome the Peace Boat and its passengers to Zeebrugge. As many of you know, the Peace Boat is no ordinary ship. It's an international platform for dialogue, education and remembrance. Since 1983, it has sailed around the world from Japan with one clear mission: to advocate for peace, human rights, sustainable development, and above all, a world without nuclear weapons. Today, we are lucky that the ship is making a stop in Belgium as part of the 80th anniversary of the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and that brings us straight to the heart of this gathering. We are deeply honored to listen to the testimonies of the two Hibakusha survivors of the unimaginable atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, Ito Masao and Kuramori Terumi. Give them a big round of applause, please. First of all, I would like to invite them on stage together with their people that will accompany them. So I will making some space. And in the name of the organization, I would also like to take the time to offer them a gift that Ria or Naomi will provide. This is a gift box full of nice Belgian specialties, and I hope you will enjoy them. Don't eat it all at once, because it's a lot of sugar. Okay, before listening to the Hibakusha, I would also like to introduce Akira Kawasaki. She is of the Peace Boat delegation, and I would like to give him the time to explain what the project is about, to give some information about the Peace Boat.
You may look the form. And on behalf of Peace Boat, I'd like to extend my warmest gratitude to all those involved to organize this wonderful meeting and for such a warm welcome. My name is Akira Kawasaki. I'm one of the executive committee members of Peace Boat. Peace Boat is a Japan-based international non-governmental organization doing peace education through global voyages. And we are very pleased to have just arrived in this beautiful port of Zeebrugge. Peace Boat was established in 1983 by young students of Japan with a mission of reflect on the past to shape a peaceful future. In the early years of Peace Boat, we visited many countries in the Asia-Pacific region and listened to those who suffered from Japanese aggression and occupation in the lead-up to and during World War II. The story that are not well taught at schools or reported in the mass media in Japan. But Peace Boat members have held the belief that it is vital for us to remember the humanitarian consequences of wars in order not to repeat the mistake. This year marks the 80th anniversary since the end of World War II. At this occasion, we are carrying out a project called Time for Peace, traveling with 2 atomic bomb survivors of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, as well as many survivors of armed conflict and wars and peace builders from around the world. Nuclear test survivors will also soon join us. Peace Boat is a proud partner of the international campaign to abolish nuclear weapons, ICAN, calling on all states to join the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons without delay. Last year, Nihon Hidankyo, the National Association of Hibakusha, or atomic bomb survivors, was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. It was such joyful news to all of us, but at the same time, we need to understand that this award was an alert that the risk of a nuclear war is higher than ever since the end of Cold War. Today, wars and conflicts are all over the world. Civilians are killed, communities and lives are destroyed, human rights are abused, and people are even suffering from sexual violence as a means of war. Moreover, nuclear armed states are threatening to use nuclear weapons at any moment. These are not acceptable at all. Arms race and nuclear proliferation is not the answer. It is time to choose peace and act for that. I hope today, by listening to the testimonies of the Hibakusha, we can discuss what can we do together to achieve a peaceful world without nuclear weapons. I thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Akira, for this powerful speech. I would also like to welcome the mayor of Brugge, Dick Defoe. Bruges has always been an active member of the international network Mayors for Peace, actually since 2007, uniting cities worldwide in their advocacy for a nuclear weapon-free world. Mayor Defoe's commitment underscores the importance of local leaders on global issues. So I would like to give the word to him as well. Applause for Dick Defoe, the mayor of Bruges.
Ladies and gentlemen, dames en heren, vertegenwoordigers van het Vredesplatform Brugge en collega burgemeester van Damme, Joachim Kuls, dear Hibakusha, dear members of the peace movement and the Bruges Peace Platform. On behalf of the city of Bruges, I bid you a warm welcome in our city and especially to the port of Zeebrugge. It is an honor and a special moment to welcome you here in our port in Zeebrugge. Your presence means a lot of us, to us, as the survivors of the atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, as Hibakusha. You carry with you a life story that touches us all. Your testimony is of inestimable value. It is not just about the past, but speaks to the conscience of today and tomorrow. You remind us of the suffering during a dark page of the 20th century, but also of the resilience of humans, of the necessity to never forget, and of the power of continuing to advocate for peace. Today, almost 80 years after those disastrous days, your message is more relevant than ever. The threat of nuclear weapons has sadly still not disappeared. Global conflicts and tensions remind us that peace today is still not evident. It requires effort, dialogue, and the ability to understand each other and the ability to work on a world without the threat of destruction. We all have a responsibility as individuals, as community, as world citizens. We cannot forget the lessons that Hiroshima and Nagasaki taught us. This in order to make young people aware of our history and to inspire them to stand up for a peaceful future. Later this day, you will visit the historical city of Bruges. I can always say why Bruges is so beautiful, because we are so lucky that there was no war in our city. There was no great damage on that historical city. So the First World War and the Second World War did not damage this historical city. So it's thanks to the fact that the wars passed away from our city that there is still a historical and beautiful city. Bruges is a World Heritage City, a warm city, a city of solidarity and a city of values. In 2019, as a member of Mayors for Peace, I signed the ICIN Cities Appeal, in which the city of Bruges speaks out against nuclear weapons and calls on to the higher authorities to sign the UN Nuclear Weapons Treaty. ICAN stands for International Campaign to Abolish Nuclear Weapons. As a member of Mayors for Peace, peace is not just a symbol for us. Peace is a commitment, rooted in our history and focused on the future. In that spirit, we will raise the flags on our City Hall on August the 6th and 9th, the days when Hiroshima and Nagasaki were struck, as a tribute to the victims, as a silent sign of solidarity, and as a memory of the consequences of nuclear violence. During the annual Peace Week in September, Bruges also supports many peace initiatives organized by the Bruges Peace Platform, several members of which are also present here today, and I'm very glad they are here. Your visit underlines the necessity of dialogue, of cooperation, and of determined choice against nuclear weapons. Your courage and years of dedication are a shining example and deserve every respect. I would like to thank you all very much for each contribution in your own way to all important small and big peace, and for striving every day for Pacific world. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mayor Defoe. Before listening to the testimonies of the Hibakusha, I would also like to express our special thanks to Ms. Izumi Fuji, the head of the Information and Cultural Department of the Embassy of Japan, who is also present here. So thank you very much, because your presence confirms the deep bond of friendship between our countries and our shared commitment to a peaceful world. So now the moment we all came from. Thank you everyone to be present here during this press and public moment with the Hibakusha, and I would like to give the floor to them as well. Give them a big round of applause, please.
Bonjour. 皆さんこんにちは。
Hello, everybody.
今から被爆証言を始めます。
I would like to begin my testimony now.
私は1歳の時に 長崎で被爆をしました。
I was
倉森
exposed.
てるみです。
My name is Hirumi Kuramori. I was exposed to the atomic bomb in Nagasaki when I was a year old.
爆心地から 5.8 キロのところにいましたが、防空壕には避難していたため助かりました。
I was 5.8 kilometers away from the hypocenter, but we'd evacuated to an air raid shelter and survived.
被爆当時は幼かったので、当時の記憶はありません。
I have no recollection of this day, as I was only an infant.
80年前の8月6日と9日、人類史上初めての原子爆弾が広島と長崎に投下され、多くの尊い命が失われました。
80 years ago, on August 6th and 9th, the first atomic bombs in human history were dropped on Hiroshima, then Nagasaki. Many precious lives were lost.
原子爆弾は他の爆弾と違い、爆発によるやけど以外に放射能による被害があります。
Unlike other types of bombs, atomic bombs cause damage not only from burns by the explosion, but also from radiation.
一命を取り留めた方々にも放射能による後遺症やがんなど耐え難い苦難の日々が長い間強いられました。
Those who survived faced years of excruciating pain and were forced to fight long battles of radiation-induced after effects, such as cancer.
放射能は人体に入ると細胞を破壊し DNA を傷つけます。
When radiation enters the human body, it destroys cells and damages DNA.
放射能は生涯今の被爆者をはじめ子や孫までも苦しみ続けます。
Radioactivity continues to cause suffering throughout the lives of those exposed to it, including their children and grandchildren.
被爆者の子どもは障害がある子や非刑児が生まれると言われ差別されました。
Children of atomic bomb survivors, hibakusha, were discriminated against because they were said to give birth to babies with disabilities or deformities.
私の姉も子供が産めない体になり離婚させられていました。
My older sister was unable to have children and was then forced to divorce.
私自身もそれまで病気や怪我をしたことがありませんでしたが、被爆者という理由で結婚を断られたことがあります。
I too was once refused marriage because I am a hibakusha, despite the fact that I had never been sick or injured.
そして私の娘も被爆者の子供ということで相手の親から結婚を反対されました。
And even my daughter, as a child of a hibakusha, had her marriage opposed by her in-laws.
私自身のことなら我慢することができますが、子供や孫がその影響を受けるのは石をぶつけられたように心が痛みます。
I can take prejudice towards myself, but when my children and grandchildren are hurt by something they weren't even here for, it feels like a dagger has been plunged into my heart.
私の父や姉、兄も原爆による影響による病気で亡くなりました。
My father, sister, and brother all died from atomic bomb-related illnesses.
父が亡くなってから生活が苦しくなり、家族から笑顔が消えました。
After my father passed away, life became difficult. The joy in our family vanished.
その経験から家族が健康で笑顔で過ごせることが平和だと感じています。
Because of this painful experience, I feel that peace is defined by a simple image, a happy and healthy family.
身近で当たり前の毎日こそが平和なのです。
Peace can be found in the daily life in which we sometimes take for granted.
ベルギーのモンス大学というところに被爆者公園というのが開設されたというニュースを見ました。
I saw in a news report that a park for Hibakusha has been built and renovated at the University of Mons in Belgium.
広島と長崎への原爆投下や世界中の核兵器の実験と製造の犠牲者を追悼し、平和教育や戦争のない世界への取り組みを強める目的が込められていると知り、日本から離れた場所でも核兵器や戦争のない世界をと思う人たちがいて嬉しく思いました。
I was happy to learn that the purpose of this memorial is to honor the victims of the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, as well as those who have suffered from nuclear weapons testing and production around the world. This will surely strengthen efforts towards peace education and a world without war. It was also encouraging to know that there are people in places far away from Japan who share the hope for a peaceful, nuclear-free world.
一方で今のまだ戦火の中で明日の命もどうなるかわからない人たちがいます。
At the same time, there are still people living in the midst of war, not knowing what tomorrow will bring.
兵士だけでなく多くの女性や子どもたちが犠牲になっています。
In addition to soldiers, many civilians, including women and children, end up having their lives taken away.
私は船の中で戦時性暴力の被害に遭った女性たちの話を聞きました。
While on board Peace Boat, I've listened to the stories of women who survived wartime sexual violence.
同じことが繰り返されないように思い出すのも辛い経験を話す彼女たちに敬意を表します。
I have the utmost respect for the women who share their painful experiences despite the trauma and the work they do to ensure the same thing does not happen again.
被爆者もまた広島と長崎で起きた惨禍が二度と繰り返さないための実現に向けた努力を重ねています。
We, the Hibakusha, are also continuing our efforts to ensure that the atrocities that occurred in Hiroshima and Nagasaki are never to be repeated.
この話を聞いた皆さんはぜひ今日の話を周りの人にも伝えてください。
To those here today, please share my story with those around you.
核も戦争もない世界に向けて共に頑張りましょう。
Let us all work together to create a world without nuclear weapons and a world without war.
ご清聴ありがとうございます。
Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much to my audience. Now we're going to listen to Ito.
皆さんこんにちは。
Hello, everybody.
私は極東の地日本その中の広島からわざわざここにやってきました。
I came from the Far East, from the city of Hiroshima in Japan, to Belgium today.
今日は 平和首長会議のメンバーでもあり、また核禁条約のために多大な努力をしてくださった市長さんのご臨席の下でこのような会が持たれていることを非常に嬉しく思っています。
I am very honored to be here today, hosted by our wonderful mayor, who is also a member of the Mayors for Peace movement, and also who is such a strong supporter of the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons. I'm very honored. Thank you so much.
私は1941年の1月生まれなので84歳になっていますが、逆に被爆をしたのはまだ5歳にもなっていなかった子供のことでした。
I was born in January of 1941, which means that this year I am 84 years old. This means that when the atomic bomb was dropped on my city, I was not even 5 years old.
そのため多くのことを知っているわけでもありませんけれども、そんな中にあっても忘れることのできない、あまり思い出したくない出来事もありました。
This means that at that time I was a very small child, therefore I don't have very many clear memories of that day. However, I do have some painful memories that are such bad memories that will never leave my brain.
私が被爆したのは爆心地から 3.2km の地点でした。
I was at my house 3.2 kilometers away from the hypocenter of the bomb.
広島の町が焼けたのは爆心地から2キロ以内のところが焼けたわけで、私の被爆地は家が焼けたり倒れたりすることはありませんでした。
The city of Hiroshima was all burnt down within 2 kilometers radius of the hypocenter, which means that our house was safe. Our house was not destroyed or it didn't fall down.
がやってきました。
However, the strong blast from the bomb did reach us.
家の前で三輪車に乗って遊んでいる時でした。
I was playing in front of my house on my tricycle.
爆風により吹き飛ばされ、一瞬気を失ってしまいました。
The blast blasted me from the tricycle and I lost consciousness for a while.
しばらくして気がついて家に帰りました。
After a while, I came back to consciousness and made my way home.
母親が待ち構えていてくれました。
My mother was waiting for me.
当時家に上がる時には履物を脱いで上がっていたわけですけども、私も履物を脱いで上がろうとした時に母親が脱がなくていいよと言いました。
In those days, we always entered a house after taking our shoes off. However, when I tried to take my shoes off, my mother said to me, "You don't have to take your shoes off when you come in."
なぜかというと、家は焼けたり倒れたりすることはありませんでしたが、窓ガラスなどのガラス片が家中に散らばっていたからです。
The reason why she said this was because although our house was not burned down or it hadn't collapsed, still all the windows had been shattered and destroyed, and the glass shards from the windows had all scattered all over the floor in the house, and it was dangerous to enter the house without shoes.
裸足で上がると怪我をするんではなかろうかということで、母親はこのように心配をしてくれました。
My mother was worried that I might hurt myself if I entered the house barefoot.
しかし私には2人の兄と姉がいました。
I had an older brother and an older sister.
2人とも爆心地近くにいたので、兄の方は父親がかろうじて傷もぐれのまま連れて帰りましたけれども、姉の方はとうとう遺骨すら見つけることができませんでした。
Both my older sister and my older brother were near the hypocenter of the bomb, and my father brought back my brother with injuries all over his body on the brink of death. However, my father couldn't even find the remains of my older sister.
これが私の家族ですけれども、私にとってショックなのは家族のことよりももっと悲惨な光景を目撃したからです。
These are the memories of the loss of my siblings and family. However, there's something else that happened, something other than my family, that left a bigger and darker mark on my memory.
多くの傷ついた人たちが爆心地から たくさん私の家の方に逃げてこられました。
Many injured people near the hypocenter of the bomb were evacuating, and many of them passed near my house, running away.
家が少々広かった関係で幾人かの人たちを休ませてあげていました。
Because our house was very spacious, we allowed some of these people to come into our house to take a rest.
しかしその人たちも次から次へと亡くなっていかれました。
However, one by one, these people passed away.
8月の暑い時です。亡くなられた遺体は一晩置いただけで腐敗が始まりました。
This was in August at a very hot time. After passing away, the bodies of these people, after just one night, would start to rot, and an awful smell started to pervade the house.
ウジ虫が湧いてきました。嫌な匂いがしてきました。
Instantly, maggots would appear on the bodies of these people, and a very foul smell came from their bodies.
その人たちを近くの空き地に集めて火葬が始まりました。
We took the bodies of these people to a clearing near the house and started to cremate them.
10人ぐらいをピラミッドのような形に積み上げて石油をかけての火葬でした。
They would pile up these people, about 10 bodies at a time, in the shape of a pyramid, and put oil over them and burn the bodies.
それはまるでゴミを焼却するような感じすらしました。
This scenery looked to me like the burning of a garbage heap.
そんな光景が1週間も続いたでしょうか。
I believe that this continued for about 1 week.
その時の光景だけは幼かった私ですけども脳裏に焼き付き匂いが鼻について今でもあまり思い出したくない嫌な記憶です。
Although I was still very small at the time, I will never forget this memory, never forget this week, and the awful smell from those days still remains in my nostrils. This is an awful memory that no matter how much I try, I can never ever forget.
今はこれ以上私たちのような被爆者を増やしてはいけないとの思いから原爆の被害と平和の大切さを伝えるために広島の平和記念資料館でボランティアとして活動をしております。
With the belief that we must never ever create any more atomic bomb survivors, hibakshas, like us anymore in the world, and with the belief that we can create peace, and that peace is very, very important, I am now working as a volunteer at the Hiroshima Peace Memorial Museum in Hiroshima.
昨年私たちのような被爆者の団体被団協にノーベル平和賞が授与されました。
Last year, the Nobel Peace Prize was awarded to our organization, the Nihon Hidankyo, which is the Japan Confederation of Atomic and Hydrogen Bomb Sufferers Organizations, an association of nuclear bomb victims.
被団協とは私たち被爆者の団体です。できた時は私たちは非常に苦しかったので助けてください助けてくださいというお願いをする団体でした。
The Nihon Hirankyo is an organization of the victims from Hiroshima and Nagasaki. At the time of its founding, Nihon Hirankyo's purpose was to ask for help, ask for support to help us, to help the victims of nuclear bombs.
しかし今は違います。私たちのような悲惨な体験は世界中のどなたにもしてほしくない。こんな思いから核兵器をなくしましょうという運動を続けております。
However, the purpose of our organization has changed over the years. Right now, our aim, our mission, is to create a world without nuclear weapons, where no one else in this world will ever suffer the way that we did. So our mission now is to create a nuclear-free world.
聞くところによりますと、2017年に核兵器禁止条約ができた後、ベルギーは核兵器禁止条約の締約国会議にオブザーバーとして参加していただいているようですが、日本政府はこれに参加していません。
I have heard that after the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons was adopted in 2017. Belgium joined the meeting of the states parties of the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons as an observer, so thank you very much for that. Meanwhile, the Japanese government has not attended this meeting once.
核兵器の被害を知っている日本こそ一刻も早く核兵器禁止条約に加盟するようにと思ってそのための署名活動に私は日夜努力をしております。
It is my belief that the government of Japan should join the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons as soon as possible because Japan is the first country that ever experienced atomic bombings. And it is with this very strong belief that every day I continue my activities to collect petitions and signatures from citizens to push our government to sign this treaty.
私はこの核兵器と同じように放射線障害による危険を知っております。そのために原発反対運動の裁判も起こしてその裁判団の副団長も務めております。
Because I know the damage and the dangers of radiation coming from nuclear atomic bombs and atomic energy, I am also serving as the vice president of a group that is working for lawsuits to try to eliminate nuclear power plants.
本国ベルギーさんもベルギーの国も核兵器、原発の廃止に向けて一時は働いていらっしゃったようですけどもまた再稼働しようかというようなことを聞いて非常に心を痛めております。
When I saw the news that although at one time Belgium was working towards the abolition of atomic nuclear power plants, however that when I heard that Belgium had restarted its nuclear power plants again, my heart was very, very hurt.
原発は事故が起これば核兵器以上の放射線による被害が出ます。
If there is an accident at a nuclear power plant, then the damage coming from the radiation could be even bigger than the one coming from an atomic bomb.
私たちはスリーマイルの事件、チェルノブイリの事故、そんなことも知っていましたが、日本の原発は安全なんだと確信を持っていましたが、間違っていました。福島で事故が起きました。
When we witnessed the accidents that happened at 3 Mile and at Chernobyl, we knew that accidents could happen at nuclear power plants. However, somehow we were made to believe that nuclear power plants in Japan are safe. This myth was overturned when the nuclear power plant in Fukushima also experienced a similar accident, and we learned that nothing can be safe at a nuclear power plant.
人間が作ったもの、人間が使っているものに絶対に安全、100% 安全ということはありえないと思います。
What humans have created and what humans use, they can never be 100% safe.
その点を皆さんにも十分理解していただきたいと思います。
Please remember this.
ご清聴ありがとうございました。
Thank you very much for listening.
And Akira, sorry. And it's actually a big thanks to the whole delegation of Peace Boat for coming here, for giving the powerful speeches and testimonies. Now I would also like to give the floor to the public. If you have any questions, now is the opportunity to ask them. So feel free to ask any questions.
In fact, I have two questions, one from the lady. Do your family said to you where you were exactly at the moment of the explosion of the Nagasaki bomb?
I 私はその時1歳でしたけれども、父母は存命中は私が被爆者とか被害に遭ったとかいうことを一切私には 話して聞かせませんでしたけれども、周囲の小さい町ですので、周りの方々が皆被爆者であり、小学校中学校の友もずっと被爆者と一緒に学校に通ってましたので、そういう状況で周囲の方々から聞き見たりすると、当然自分は被爆者だとうすうす感じてましたけれども、父や母にそれを尋ねると曇り顔になってしまい、悲しそうな顔をしていましたので、こういうことは二度と聞いたら悲しむだろうと思って聞くことをやめました。
So I was 1 year old at the time, and of course I knew that my family were all hibakushas. And however, my family, my parents, my grandmother never told me about the fact that I am a hibakusha. They never told me about the damages that we had received under the bombing. However, when I went to school, of course, it's a small town, it's a small city. So in all my friends in the neighborhood, all of my classmates that I had in elementary school and junior school, all of my friends and classmates, we were all hibakushas. And so it was in this situation that I grew up, and so I heard about it, I saw this, so I knew somewhere in my heart that we were all hibakushas, that we had all gone through this experience. However, when I asked my mother and father about that day, their faces always became very clouded and very sad, and it almost looked as if they didn't want to say anything about that day. So I realized that, I must never ask my parents about that day, because then they would be sad. So I stopped asking my parents about the bombing.
Thank you very much. Thank you. The second question is for this gentleman. Now, I have been given lectures on the Manhattan Project, which was leading to the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And I have read a lot of books about that. And in one of the books, I read that when there was after the bomb, the dead person who was brought in a ceremony to his grave, that the Americans picked up the body and sent it to the United States of America for examination. Is that correct? Have you ever heard of that?
申し訳ありませんが、そんな事実はなかったと思います。遺体というよりも研究をされたその資料が血液であるとかがんであるとかいった資料が研究された結果が全てアメリカに持って帰られて日本には残らなかったという事実はあります。
I personally have never heard of an incident where, like, the bodies of the bodies of people people were actually transported to the US. I've never heard of that. However, yes, there is the fact that research had been done on the blood samples, on the cancer, and all the data was collected about the symptoms that were left on the bodies of people who were under the bomb. It is true that this data was taken to the USA, while very few or none of that data was left behind in Japan. Yes, that is a fact.
I would like to thank you very much for your testimony, and especially also to make the link in between nuclear weapons and nuclear power, especially in these times when right-wing governments everywhere in the world are trying to revive nuclear programs. And most of all the countries who have nuclear weapons, France and England, the United States, Russia, China. So I think, and I would like to ask you, when you are going with this peace boat around the world, how do you think that we can best organize the struggle in a united way over the borders and over the boundaries as well of the subjects of nuclear power and nuclear weapons, also in the context of climate change?
あまり詳しくは分かりませんが、政府レベルでは各企業と結びついていて核開発に力を入れているようですけれども、 一般市民の人は必ずしもそうではないと思います。
I'm not an expert in this field. However, what I can say is that at the governmental level, I believe that the governments have a lot of connections with businesses, and it is with the governments and the businesses working together to develop nuclear weapons and nuclear power plants. However, at the citizens level, at the civilian level, I don't think that citizens actually support this trend.
しかし、一般市民が声を大きくすれば、世論を盛り上げれば、必ず廃絶に向けて政府も動かざるを得なくなるんではないかと、私たちは確信を持って、また希望を持って活動を続けています。
Meanwhile, I believe that if we actually work with the public, and if the public opinion among citizens becomes strong enough, this can actually push governments towards nuclear disarmament and nuclear abolition. It is with this strong belief and this strong hope that I am continuing my activities.
そのためには世論を盛り上げることが大切だと思います。皆様のご協力をお願いいたします。
It is so important to make public opinion strong enough that it can move governments. Therefore, I ask for your full support in this matter. Thank you so much.
People from Japan, but I don't know if you know that Belgium delivered the uranium for the nuclear bomb from Congo. So we are accomplice to the nuclear bomb. Secondly, how Belgium signed the Accord against spreading of nuclear weapons. They are still in Belgium, in Kleine Brogo, nuclear weapons, and nobody is doing something against it. Even the mayors who signed against peace, they are doing nothing. So I ask the mayors and all the people that the nuclear weapons who are in Kleine Brogo, that they disappear from our country. Thank you.
Good afternoon, I'm mayor of the city next to Bruce, Damme. I just wondered, you're traveling from Japan, a long trip. What's your trip like? You do different stages, do you different countries? How long have you been around, and where you go next to after Belgium?
I think about Peace Boat voyage, I will respond. So our voyage, called as Peace Boat 120th Global Voyage, departed Japan on 23rd of April, and so it's already about 1.5 months since then. So throughout the voyage, we are visiting in a total of 18 countries, and I think now we are in the mid of global voyage, and we'll be going back in Japan in early August. So it's almost about 100 days visit, and in each port of call, including here Daegu, we are having touristic programs and also educational programs. The total of about 1,700 passengers, mainly Japanese, but other Asians like from China, Taiwan, Korea, Malaysia, and so on, are there. And today they are in groups and visiting various places in Belgium, enjoying. But this group, with Hibakusha, is having this program with you, thanks to your host. And on the ship, we, reflect what we learned in each port of call. And we have seminars, discussions on board. And actually, our ship is very big, but we eliminated all casinos, and we installed libraries and seminar rooms, and having a lot of cultural and also discussion programs.
you all for your questions and also big thanks for your responding. Now we're going to end the part with the public questions because we want to offer you the time to explore the beautiful city of Bruges in the afternoon and to enjoy the specialities at the restaurant. But first of all, I want to ask two things. So first, I want to ask the mayors and the representative of the embassy to step outside together with the Hibakusha delegation of the Peace Boat for a picture outside. And afterwards, we would like to take a picture with the whole group. So if that's okay for everyone, we can do that right now. Thank you all for coming, and big thanks to the people of Peace Boat. Thank you.
All we are saying is give peace a chance. Thank you all for your presence.
But I don't know if we can see. There is a
Okay. In the event this afternoon, but Peace Boat has been really active in the field of nuclear disarmament, and we've been working very closely with atomic bomb survivors from Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And as you may be aware, that the Nobel Peace Prize last year, 2024, was given to Nihon Hidankyo. That stands for Japan Confederation of Atomic and Hydrogen Bomb Sufferers Organizations, which basically is an association of the Japanese Hibakusha, the atomic bomb survivors. And because of our relationship with Nihon Hidankyo, Peace Boat members had the honor to be invited to attend the Nobel Peace Prize award ceremony last December. And we visited Nobel Peace Center, which is located just next to Oslo City Hall. Nobel Peace Center is a kind of a museum that is promoting the work of Nobel Peace Prize laureates every year. And the director of Nobel Peace Center said that they want to actively promote the exhibit of the museum because, you know, the number of people who can actually come to Norway and Oslo is very limited from the world. But the ship is traveling around the world, so the idea came up that we have a smaller version of Nobel Peace Prize exhibition here on this ship, and this is it. It's not a full scale, but a little bit small, but almost the same, and produced by the same curator of the from the Nobel Peace Center. So please come in. So this exhibition starts with this big picture, which is a very famous picture, representing or symbolizing the Hiroshima bombing. But actually, this picture was taken by an American military plane right after the bombing. But the problem is that this picture does not capture the humanitarian catastrophe. And it is quoting late Mikiso Iwasa, who was one of the leading figures in Nihon Hidankyo, saying, underneath the cloud were human beings. So often, we talk about nuclear weapons from this direction, above the cloud. But most importantly, we need to look at beneath the cloud. And with this message, the whole exhibition here is focusing on the humanitarian aspect on nuclear weapons or atomic bombing. These photos were taken by French photographer named Antoine Dagata. He intentionally made those photos blurry and vague with black and white, and also coupled with some contemporary photos, contemporary infrared photos like in original red. So in this way, it is trying to stir your imagination what it was like in the aftermath of the Hiroshima bombing, and also what it would be like if a nuclear weapons detonated today. And the curator told us that this triangle is a little bit uncomfortable to look at. It's in a good shape. If it is round, it's much more easier to look at. But he intentionally made it uncomfortable because this is very much uncomfortable reality. These are the Hibakusha having very, very strong, serious faces. Because of our working relationship, I know many of them, like Tanaka-san, Wada-san, Kodama-san. Normally they are very, very friendly, cheerful people. Normally, when somebody puts a camera on you, then you smile. But in this case, the photographer very strongly asked each one of them to remember what happened in 1945 and to recall the decades-long struggle in their life. So they are really having a serious face. And I think we do not need any kind of language or text to attach to it. They are really talking to us in this way. And there was a question about the organization of the Hibakusha. And in that relation, I need to point out just one thing. These are all Japanese people, and all those names are there in the wall listed, and then the location of their exposure to the bomb is all recorded. But the important fact is that not everyone who suffered from the atomic bombing was Japanese. At that time, Japan already colonized some parts of Asia, in the lead up to the World War II. For example, the Korean Peninsula was Japan's colony. And some part of China, North, Southeast Asia, and Pacific Islands were under Japanese occupation. And the government of Japan pulled laborers from those areas to come to Japanese mainland and forced to work in various places, including Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And Hiroshima and Nagasaki were kind of middle-sized major cities with some military sites or weapon industry and so on. And in those places, many Koreans were forced to work, and they were victimized by the bomb. What about the future? The photographer Antoine Dagata
featured these high school students of Hiroshima playing with theirs in the Miyajima Park, which is close to Hiroshima city in the nature. And actually those high school students doing the peace campaigns, collecting petitions, signatures for nuclear disarmament and sending them to United Nations. So they're doing this activity very well, and so the existence of those people and smiling is a kind of good prospect for the future. So we started this exhibition from the very difficult reality of 1945, and then the present hibakusha, elderly hibakusha, and young people, with some hope.